Tattercoats. So here we go. There was there was one an old lord who lived in a great castle by the sea. He was lonely, for the castle was bare and empty, and there were no young and gay people to make his great halls ring with laughter. All day the lord would pass the stone corridors or sit alone on his room looking out over the grey sea. He had one little granddaughter, whose face he had never looked on. He hated the child from the day she was born, because on that day her mother died, and her mother had been the old lord's favorite and dearly loved daughter. The little girl's father had gone far away over the sea to fight for the king. So it was as if she had no parents and no one to take care of her. No one, that is, except her own nurse, who kept her in her room, fed her with scraps of food from her grandfather's stable, and clothed her in whatever old and worn out garments she could find. Because the Lord hated his granddaughter, most of the servants ill treated her, calling her names and telling her to keep out of the way. Tattercoats was the name that everyone called her because of her clothes. Tattercoats spent her days playing in the yard, at the back of the castle, or down by the lonely seashore, or else she'd go off to the fields and look for the crippled gooseherd who had her only playfellow. This was a lad a little older than she was, who had been lame from birth and lived on a farm nearby. It was his task to drive the geese every morning out of the farmyard, over the fields, and down to the pond where they splashed and swam and dive for fish. He used to play on a little pipe, and this was Tattercoats' greatest joy, to hear the quaint tunes, merry or sad, which the gooseherd played on his pipe. Sometimes they would make her think of the fairies in the woods. Sometimes they would make her think of foreign countries, of far off mountains and rivers. Sometimes the music was so light and merry that it made her dance. Even the gooseherd would dance now and again in his clumsy way. So the days passed in spring and summer. In winter, when the evenings were long, Tattercoats would draw close to the fire in her old nurse room and make her tell stories of knife and ladies, battles and giants, or of the fairies who play by the sea and fly invisibly through the air. Tattercoats would sit and listen for as long as her nurse would let her, gazing into the fire till her cheeks were warm and her eyes shone bright. And at last she began to nod at her nurse and yawned and said that she could tell no more tales and the little girl must go to bed. Yet much as she loved to hear stories, Tattercoats was happiest when everyone forgot about her and she could slip away and find her friends in the gooseherd, who played such a magical tunes on his pipe, and they would talk and play all the long summer evenings, or, or else Tattercoats could try to remember a story to tell the gooseherd, or the gooseherd would buy for her to dance. Then the world would be forgotten, and the great bear castle, and the unkind servants, and her grandfather, whom she had never seen. The years went by, and the old lord got older and sadder, and now he would scarcely even walk about his castle, but would sit all day and all night by the window, overlooking the sad sea, till his long white beard grew down over his knee and over his feet and began to twine round the leg of his chair, and the tears would fall from his eye as he thought of his favorite daughter, who was dead. So, weeping and thinking, he sat there as the year slowly by, more sad. Um, then one day the king came to visit the town nearby, and he sent invitation to all the lords and nobles and their ladies to come to a great ball. His son, the prince, had come of age, and it was known that he was looking for a bride. Now, when a king sent invitation, they are not such a much invitation as commands, and a command came to the old lord in the castle by the sea to come to the ball in the town and do honor to the royal court. So a milk-white horse was saddled and bridled, and the lord sent for a barber with a great pair of scissors to cut away the long white beard that bound him to the chair. Then he put on fine clothes and went down to the country yard to mount the milk-white horse and ride to town. It happened, Leah. She farts. Um, it happened that Tattercoats, who has now a fine big girl, gracefully and sweet, though still dresses in tatters, was talking with the old nurse in her room upstairs. And when she heard the horse jiggling and clattering in the country yard below, she asked the nurse what was to do. "The king has ordered a great ball to be held in town," said the nurse, "and he has commanded your grandfather to attend it. If you look out of the window, you will see him." "Oh, how I should love to go to the king's ball," said Tattercoats. "Go to my grandfather and plead with him to take me. Please, please, dear nurse, before it's too late." Just then the old man strode stiffly into the country yard and mounted the horse, helped by a groom and a stable boy. "Is that my grandfather?" said Tattercoats. "How handsome he looks in his fine clothes. Oh, how I wish he would take me." "I will never dare ask him," said the nurse. "Besides, it is too late now. He will be gone before my old bones could take me to downstairs." Even as she spoke, the groom handed the lord the reins, and the milk-white horse carried him away through the castle gate. Tattercoats watched him till he was out of the sight. Then she turned from the window and began to cry. "My first ball," she sobbed. "It might have been my first ball. Now I shall never go to one. I have lost my chance. And I won't come again. And all because you wouldn't go and speak to my grandfather." She turned angrily to the nurse, who answered, "Now, hush, my dear. Balls and festivities aren't for the likes of you. Don't turn on your old nurse. I could do nothing for you. He won't listen to me. Even if I have spoken to him, he'll never have taken you. It as much as my place is worth to look after you the way I do. So don't give yourself airs, young mistress. I do what I can for you, but a miracle worker I never was, and I don't you forget it. Tattercoat stopped crying as quickly as she has started, and asked her nurse to forgive her. There, nurse, she said, don't you scold me. Why, I shouldn't have a friend in the world. I didn't mean it. Truly, I didn't. It's not your fault, and I don't want to go to the silly old ball and see all the lords and ladies giving themselves airs in the fine new clothes. And don't you forget that. All the same, as she wandered out through the country yard into the green fields, which were bright with the afternoon sunlight, she thought how much she would have liked to have just one look at all those proud faces and splendid dresses, to see the king nodding kindly as the lords bowed to him and the ladies courtesy, to hear the grave music and the laughing and whispering, and perhaps even catch a sign of the prince himself as he moved, handsome and stately, among the dancers. So she dreams to herself as she loitered along the path, and she hardly noticed her young friend, the gooseherd, as he limped up to greet her, followed by his little flock of grey geese. He played a few plain, plaintive notes on his little pipe and said, "A penny for your toast, Tattercoats. Would you like a merry tune to make you dance, or a sad one to make you cry?" "I want to dance," said Tattercoats, "but not here. I wanted so much to go to town to the king's ball, but I haven't been asked, and that's the long and short of it." "You want to go to town," said the gooseherd. "Then to town you shall go, and I and my geese will go with you. It is not so far for a tall, strong worker like yourself, or even a hobbling peeper like me." So off they went down the white road, and the gooseherd made the distance seem no distance at all by playing his merriest, sweetest tunes. And soon Tattercoats forgot all her sadness and was dancing along by his side as pleasantly as ever. When they were near the town, they heard the sound of horse hoofs on the road behind them, and a tall, handsome young man on a black horse came up beside them. "Are you going to town?" he asked, bending over his horse's neck. "If so, I will go along with you, for you seem good company." "Why, yes, sir," answered the gooseherd. "We are going to town to see the fine people arrive for the king's ball. Go with us, and welcome." The young man jumped down from his horse and walked beside Tattercoats, while the gooseherd followed after, striking up a tune on his pipe. Then the young man stopped still and looked at Tattercoats. "Do you know who I am?" he asked. "Why no, sir," said she. "How should I? I am the prince," says he. and I am on my way to my father's ball. Let me look at you a minute. Then, as the prince began to gaze at Tattercoats' face, the goose here played a new tune, a sweet and a strange tune with a magic in it. Tattercoats scarcely heard it, for she was looking into the prince's eyes, and the prince scarcely heard, for he was thinking that never in his life had he seen a fairer face. He did not see the girl's tater clothes, bare feet, or and untidy hair. He only saw her sweet, shy face, and for a while he said nothing. Then, at last he spoke. "What is your name?" he asked. "I'm called Tattercoats," she said. "That is the only name I ever had." "I am the prince," he said, "and tonight I look for a bride. I never saw anyone who moved my heart as you do, Tattercoats. Tattercoats, will you marry me and be my princess?" Tattercoats could say nothing. Instead, she only looked up to the prince. His horse moved one hoof a little impatiently, and the gooseherd's music was still. "I ask you again," said the prince. "Tattercoats, will you be my bride?" Then Tattercoats smiled and shook her head. "No," she said, "you are making fun of me. I am no wife for a prince. Ride off to your great ball and choose a bride from among the fine court ladies." "I am in earnest," said the prince, "but if you say so, I can see from your face that you mean it. If you will not be my bride, will you at least come to the ball? Listen, I ask you to go to the ball at midnight, just as you are, with the goose here, with his pipe, and all his geese. Will you come?" Tater looked at him. "Perhaps," she said. "Perhaps not. I don't know." The prince says nothing more, but mounted his black horse and galloped away towards the town. The gooseherd played a few notes on his pipe and came up to Tattercoats. "Take fortune when it comes," he said. "Let's follow him." So off they went together into the town. So off they went together into the town. Give me a second. Never have Never had the lords and ladies of that country seen a more splendid balls. All the townsfolk gathered to watch the arrival of the guests. Some on horseback and some in carriages. The great hall was light up by 1,000 candles, which were reflected in the polished floor, and one end of the hall a platform supported 2 thrones, on which the king and the queen received the guests, and the other end a lofty gallery held the musicians. 2 great doors led into the banqueting hall, where rich food and wines were served. Round the walls were comfortable chairs for the older people and for those not dancing. On the terrace, those who found the ballroom overheated, strolled in the cool of the evening, talking and laughing with no care in the world. The musicians play as never before. All were gay, but a little anxious, for this was the night when the king's eldest son was expected to choose his bride. Perhaps he had already made his choice. Perhaps none of the young ladies of his father could well please him. How many proud ladies hid, hid their secret hopes and fear under the light-hearted chatter and careless smiles. The evening passed all too quickly for the drunk of dancer, and still nothing was said of the prince's choice. After all, then he had not made up his mind, so it was thought by many. Then, just as midnight had finished, striking from the great clock on the town hall, there was a flurry at the entrance to the ballroom, and the oldest sight they had ever seen greeted the country's eyes. A strange procession entered as the music ceased, and the lords and ladies began to leave the ballroom floor. In front came a girl clad in tattered country clothes, and behind her was a crepe gooseherd, followed by a knight clacking geese. What a sight to behold at the king's ball! At first, the courtiers were dumb with amazement. Then some began to talk and whisper, and others laughed out loud. But their laughter changed once more into silence as the prince stepped forward and took the girl by the hand, leading her fearlessly up to the platform on which his father and mother were enthroned. "Father," he said, "this is Tattercoats. If she will have me, is, is, is she I wish to marry? What do you say?" Or, what do you say? The king looked at the face of Tattercoats long and kindly. "My son," he said, "you have chosen well. If this young lady is as good as she is beautiful, she will make you a wonderful princess." "The young lady is very lovely," said the queen, "but something will have to be done about her clothes." "And what does the lady say?" asked the king. "Has she consented?" "If you all wish it," said Tattercoats in scarcely more than a whisper, "I will be the prince's bride." Then, in the silence that followed, the gooseherd put his pipe into his lip and began to play a strange tune that no one had ever heard before. Instantly, Tattercoats' ragged clothes were changed into robes of shiny white, with tiny diamonds sparkling up them and a train of rose-colored silk hanging from the shoulders. The night geese were turned into night-page boys in suits of blue. They gathered up Tattercoats' silken train and bore it behind her as the prince led her down the hall to begin to dance. The goose boy's strange tune was lost in the song of the music from the gallery, and the prince and his bride began to dance. That is the story of how Tattercoats became the princess of all the land, and even the most jealous mothers agreed that she and the prince were a well-matched pair. The king proclaimed that it was his and the queen's pleasure that their eldest son should be betrothed to Tattercoats. And when the news was known, there was rejoicing in all the towns and villages. Bonfires were lit, bells were rung, and a public holiday was announced. Amidst all the rejoicing, there was one sad heart. Oh, the heart of the old lord, the grandfather of Tattercoats. For he never forgot his sorrow, and when the ball was over, he rode home to the castle by the sea, where he sat for the rest of his day by the window, till his beard grew long and twisting once more, and the tears streamed from his eye down his ancient and wrinkled cheeks. And for the goose hare, when Tattercoat has danced her first dance with the prince, she looked round for her old playfellow, but he was nowhere to be found. She sent out into all the countryside, but he was never heard of him again. Yet, sometimes, country people, going home late, would fancy they hear the sweet, strange note of his pipe behind a hedge or among the trees, but others said it must be the fairies, or perhaps just their fancy. Whether Tattercoat ever thought of him again, I don't know, but she did not forget her old nurse, whom she brought with her on the day of her marriage to live in the palace of the prince, her husband. Oh, the end. Oh, that was sweet. So, uh, I don't know what is the name for in Spanish is Hada Madrina, but maybe this man, the goose herd, was an angel. Yeah, like the angel um, of Tattercoats. This story or this fairy tale, I think, is for little girls. But it's a beautiful, 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 beautiful fairy tale. I love it. I love it. So thank you for watching. Please write below if I have some mistakes in my pronunciation. And yeah, that's all. Thank you. Bye bye.